Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Layer 13, as we are preparing to get underway for the sixth and final stint here for TORA's 12 Hours of Sebring here for the C Lobby. While we weren't able to cover the fifth stint, I'll go ahead and give you kind of a quick overrun. The first few stints. Stints 1 and 2 were absolutely dominated at the front in both categories, just absolute walk-offs, but everything from second on back was pretty much up in the air to the end. In fact, in Stint 1 at the end, the bottom category, the GT cars, ended up having an accident just as they came to the checkered flag, which kind of shook things up there. In Stint 2, things were still a walk-off at the top of the field. Stint 1, the top had been won by Darkster. Stint 2 was won by TNR Blade. But once again, pretty much everything else was kind of up in the air farther down the grid. Stint 3 was a gigantic walk-off in the GT category, by the pink Porsche that Apex Yes was driving. Yes had been involved in an accident in Stint 1 and went from a guaranteed second to fifth, but they turned it around with a gigantic win of over half a lap in GT in Stint 3, while the prototype category race in Stint 3 got interesting, but in the end, it was a pretty easy walk-off. Stint 4, the fight in the prototypes went down to the last lap between two different drivers. One of them was a LMP driver, one of them was an ESV driver. It almost felt like it was 2021 all over again for a few moments there. In the end, it was the ESV driver who ended up winning. It was the LMP driver who came home second. In the GT category for Stint 4, incredibly competitive. Of all of the GT drivers that started in Stint 4, all but one of them led at least one lap. The strategies were all over the place, and the racing was incredibly clean in Stint 4. And now we're about to get underway for Stint 5 here. I think we're only going to be waiting on one or two more drivers. I hope we have more than just 16 drivers, at least at this point. We still have 9 prototypes running, and we still have at least 7 GTs. We may have more, but bare minimum, we have 7 GTs coming into it right now. We're just kind of in a bit of a holding pattern as they're checking to make sure all of the remaining drivers who are still in the event are still going to be here. This is going to be the first stint, at least that I'm covering, which is going to be at night. All the prior stints were in the daytime, so it was very nice, easy to understand, easy to follow through, because it's very straightforward when it comes to setups. Now, it's still straightforward when it comes to setups, but you don't really know how the car is going to change handling-wise in setups. Again, if you do not remember, we've covered this several times already. All the setups, all the tunes are provided in this event by ESV Barcode due to a host, at least 3 different game-breaking glitches or exploits. TORA has decided that for this event, all tunes in the top and bottom category will be pre-made by ESV Barcode, pretty much the head guy when it comes to balancing cars. He has now gone a step further and has done and made tunes for the series. Every car has the same tune. Most cars do have alternate tunes, but the only changes in the alternate are different brake pressures. Other than that, the springs are the same, the downforce is the same, the gearing's the same, everything else is the same. There are just some alternate brake pressure available for different cars if drivers want softer or harder brakes. So, with that in mind, while it's simple in the sense that you're not looking at making any changes or anything with the setup, it's going to be really interesting because now that the cars are on a cooler track, there's not any sunlight keeping the track warm. It's going to take longer to get the tires warmed up, and when your tires are getting worn out, they're going to be losing a lot more temperature down the straightaways, which will make turning in a lot harder. However, the cooler temperatures also mean that it will be harder to overheat your tires, and that may artificially help extend the life of the tires by a bit. You're probably not going to get an entire extra lap out, but if you were one of those drivers who had really been struggling to go 15 minutes on the soft tires, now it might be significantly easier for you to go 15 minutes on the soft tires. If you're one of those drivers who were really struggling to go 21, 22 minutes on the mediums, now you might be able to do that and maybe just a little bit more. It's likely not going to be enough to massively overhaul everything, but some drivers may not be ready for the change. Some of these drivers have run in other stints in the daytime. Now they're going to have to get used to slightly different, not massively different, but slightly different braking zones, slightly different performance characteristics here at night. As we're still staying by waiting for the last few drivers to show up for the event, we still are at 16 right now. 9 prototypes and 7 GTs. And we're just in a bit of a prolonged holding pattern at the moment. Well, while we're still in this holding pattern, I'm going to knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break, and hopefully when we come back, we can get underway with this here. We'll be back momentarily here at Sebring, hopefully about to get underway for the last 2-hour stint of racing here for Sea Lobby. All right, here we are. It looks like we're only going to have 17 people now, so 9 prototypes and 8 GTs. The field's going to be a lot thinner than what it had been before. Starting at the head of the field, it looks like it's going to be LMP Aramis in one of the Toyota TS020s, followed by AFZ Izzy in another Toyota, then SFM Darkster in another Toyota. DMS Sherry is still the highest rating of the BMWs, but remember, that BMW had an accident back in Stint 3, which has definitely derailed their runs. EVR Stone is going to be starting 5th. After that will be the Bentleys, AFMG Vorm, AFZ Taco, 6th and 7th. After that will be Strict Code and Lazy Arc, the last place of the still remaining Toyotas. In the GT category, it's going to be Roken GTR. This was the entry that won in Stint 4, and they have taken over the overall lead of all of the Sea Lobby entrants. Silent Drifter in the Dodge Viper is going to be starting in 2nd position. 3rd is going to be Apex Fuego. 4th place is going to be Optin Vic, actually. 5th place will go to EVR Burn. 6th will go to Call GX. Then it will be LMP Porsche and King of Twilight. The Chevys have fallen to last place. After that LMP Porsche entry, remember, they won the first 2 stints, but had disconnect back in Stint. Well, not disconnect, but they ran out of fuel. No, they didn't. They weren't the ones who ran out of fuel. It was a different one. But they had a disconnect back in Stint 4 that has absolutely put them way behind the 8 ball. But that is your 17-car grid for this final stint tonight here at Sebring. All right, loading onto the circuit. And now that it is nighttime, we're going to have a nice little visual here. I'm going to go ahead and turn all of these off. Oh, no, I actually want to control bar on. Boom. Points of interest camera. There we are. Here. Let's leave it like this and it'll fade away. That way you all get the visual of the field rolling by here. And we're off. And it's Aramis who is holding on at the front of the field over AFC Izzy, who is immediately under threat from Darkster. Darkster trying to throw it up on the inside, side by side, and Darkster gets him. Darkster moves up into second position. Darkster won the opening stint. Can he bookend his run in stint C here? Looks like Stritch Code's already slipped back to 8th, Taco in 9th, but in the GT category, it is Roken holding station over the pink Porsche being driven by Apex Fuego. Silent Drifter coming up alongside Fuego, neck and neck, side by side, and it looks like Silent Drifter is going to get that for the moment. But it is Toyota's 1, 2, 3 at the head of the field right now. That is DMS Sherry, the highest of the BMWs, trying to fight their way up through the grid right now. Looks to the inside of AFC Izzy, but there's no room as they go down the back straightaway for the first time here in complete nighttime. So it looks like Aramis has already opened up a bit of a gap on SFM Darkster. This is the car that brought it home second in Stint 4. They have decent overall distance, but they need to pull off a win if they want to secure the overall victory amongst their C lobby rivals. It's not been a great time for them, but they've not had any disconnects yet, and while they've had some rough times, they have been able to string just enough good runs together. They are still in contention. They're trying to pull away with and open up a gap on SFM Darkster in the 97, and now DMS Sherry in the BMW has gotten by AFZ Izzy, so Sherry will now start putting pressure on Darkster here, I imagine. DMS Sherry closing down on SFM Darkster down the straight. It gets tighter. Seems like they've resolved it for now, though. Power down. And they're off. You have a sideways moment there from the Doritos machine. But it looks like Darkster is trying to close back down on Aramis. So we may have a menage a trois here at the head of the prototype field. It's still Roken, Silent Drifter, and Fuego in the top 3 in the GT category. Down the back straightaway again. Darkster, I think, is now close enough to get a draft off of LMP Aramis. Now, catching him is going to be one thing. Passing him, how long will it take to make the overtake happen? Again, Darkster dominated back in Stint 1, won with a massive margin, about a third of a lap. But that was in the daytime. Now it's night. The cars are going to handle different. Can Darkster replicate that and bookend his team's run today? And would that even be enough to get them the overall win out of all the C-Lobby stints? Sherry still hangs out in third. Just a little bit behind is AFZ Izzy trying to keep EVR Stone behind. And Stone puts the bumper to Izzy. Izzy's going to keep it on track for the moment, though. But that's going to continue to back this group up and keep them away from the lead trio. Darkster now right behind Aramis. It's not a matter of can he catch him. He's caught them. Now the question is, what do we do with him? AFMG Vorm now makes their way by EVR Stone farther back. And Everstone now gets ahead of Lazy Ark as Vorm now slides back a few positions. Lazy Ark drops the tire into the dirt there. Lazy Ark had been one of those drivers in contention for a Stint 3 victory before getting into it with other drivers and bleeding off too much time with some spins. Trying to recover now. Vorm has just kind of been hanging out in this area. We know the Bentleys are fast, but they need to be clean early on when they don't seem to have the pace. The Bentleys seem to turn on their pace late in these stints. Once again, now we look at the top three. Still nose to tail. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tire wear of our lead group. LMP Aramis, his tires, 23.2% on the most worn tire. SFM Darkster right behind him. He is at 24.5% on the most worn tire. DMS Sherry, who is third, is at 24 flat, 24.1 on the most worn tire. AFZ Izzy, right now, their most worn tire is 23.7%. It's on the rears. Everstone, back here in fifth, they are at 24.4%, so they are definitely doing a little bit better. Oh, and Darkster and Aramis are at it, side by side, neck and neck. Darkster tries to make it work around the outside, but it loses traction in the process. Aramis holds on just a little bit longer. Okay, so now we know what Darkster's gonna do. He's willing to commit to the outside line, get a little bit physical, but it's not gonna be that easy to get by Aramis early on here. And if these drivers are all on soft tires, that means that the strategy is going to be relatively flat between them. Not going to be a lot of stuff to do. You're going to have to pass him mano-y-mano, and Aramis is not going to let that be that easy if he can help it. Drop the edge of his tire onto the dirt that time by. Darkster is close enough to still get a draft, but I don't think we'll see him go for a move in this corner. Now that time, Darkster was the one who dropped the tire into the dirt. Still close enough to get a draft off of Aramis though, so the gap doesn't open up too much. But now this duo is actually starting to pull away a bit from DMS Sherry in third. So Sherry does not seem to be able to match what these leading two Toyotas are able to do at the moment. Good reminder, Toyota started this race 1-2-3. Darkster was the one who started third. He needs to pass Aramis and open up a good gap on him for his team to take the overall win of all the C Lobby prototypes. This time Darkster dropped the tire in the dirt, trying to have a nice straight exit. Oh, he's got to run. Is he going to go and lunge to the inside? Aramis leaves the inside open. Here comes the move from Darkster. Throws it very aggressively up the inside. Aramis goes the long way around, trying to keep as little contact from being made as possible, but the cars goes sideways just a little bit over the curb, and that's enough. Darkster goes to the lead. It's been about 9 minutes. It took about 9 minutes for Darkster to get in front of Aramis. Now, will he be able to start scooting away, or is Aramis going to keep Darkster honest and stay on top of him to the end here? Well, already the gap between Darkster and Aramis is starting to creep open just a bit. Now, Aramis will have the draft as they go down the back straightaway, so that should be able to help them a little bit. And Darkster dropping a tire in the dirt won't exactly hurt Aramis either, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a dive into the final corner here. And Darkster is going to have clean air on the nose of his car, which will make it easier for him to pull out and try to start opening the gap. Darkster running a much wider line than Aramis out of the final corner. Looks to me like that fight's going to be basically resolved here now, as Darkster is now starting to scoot away from Aramis just a tiny bit, but traffic is coming up for this group. The leader is Silent Drifter. Fuego had been leading earlier, but something has obviously gone wrong. I'm sorry, not Fuego. Roken had been leading earlier, but something obviously had gone wrong with him. Roken, though, is at 25% tire wear. I look at Silent Drifter, who is leading in this category. He is at 38% tire wear. So that probably has something to do with it. If Roken is running a harder tire compound, that probably has a lot to do with why he's not leading anymore. The other drivers ahead of him are on the softer tires. Roken went for a whole lot of runs on the medium tires, a harder compound tire basically, back in Stint 4, and it brought him the victory. All right, let's keep an eye on Darkster and Aramis here, as they're going to start cutting their way through traffic. Ryan on board with Aramis in second. He looks ahead at Darkster, as now they're coming up into traffic for the first time in the stint, taking them only about 12 minutes this stint. Earlier, it was taking them about 15 minutes to catch traffic. Now it's down to just 12. Darkster really held up by LMP Porsche there. Aramis didn't really have a good exit when he finally did get by the car. So the ground that he's gained kind of gets neutralized. And suddenly Darkster is scooting away once again. Darkster gets caught right behind one of the Chevys, but can use the extra downforce in the car to herk it aggressively to the right. Goes really wide, almost into the tire barrier. Now he slides back to the right side, gets by several more cars. This has brought Aramis back into the play again. Both of them clear the IARA dodge. And they're both into the dirt, but Aramis is into the dirt much less than Darkster is. They're back to being nose to tail. They still have Silent Drifter ahead and Apex Fuego to deal with. Fuego right on the racing line. 97 gets a little bit of a touch there from that martini-colored car. And now they come up on Silent Drifter. Drifter's going to be on the outside. And for all the hoopla over dealing with traffic, the gap between the two of them is basically the same as it was when they first hit traffic, so it didn't really have too much of an impact. Again, smaller prototype field and smaller GT field than what we started with. He initially had 11 prototypes and 9 GTs, and now that has dropped down to 8 GTs and 9 prototypes. But Aramis is back on Darkster now, can try and put some pressure on him. Again, Darkster drops a tire into the dirt there. Darkster is absolutely hustling it around the circuit. And we'll likely see them pitting, maybe not this lap, but the lap after this one. Again, Darkster gets really wide, nearly into the tire barrier, and here comes Aramis with a massive run on the outside. Neck and Aramis around the outside. Can he complete the overtake? He does! Aramis clears Darkster. Real quick, as we look back down at the GT leaders, it is Silent Drifter in the Dodge that leads, with Apex Fuego just behind, followed by Optin Vic right now. So Dodges run first and third. Then you have EVR Burn and Roken GTR. Burn on the outside, Roken on the inside. Remember, Roken is on a harder compound tire. He's just trying to turn some clean laps right now and hope that he can get some good clean air for a long period of time to open up a gap on the rest of the field. Aramis and Darkster are still going at it though. For the moment, it is Aramis over Darkster as they're preparing to make their first stops of the day. We look real quickly at the fuel and tire numbers. 7.7% left in the tank, 57% on the tires for Aramis. I look at Darkster. He is at 59.7% on the rear tires, 2.4% in the fuel tank. So if they both pit and they both put in the same amount of fuel, it will take slightly longer for Darkster, but I don't think it would be enough to really affect the gap massively, assuming they stay on top of each other like this. But Darkster is burning up his rear tires first. Aramis is burning up his front tires first. So I have to wonder if that's a different from which tune they chose. If one of them has chosen a tune that is a little bit higher in braking or lower in braking, or if they're choosing tunes that have more front brake bias or rear brake bias. Aramis very wide in the final corner that time. Darkster trying to come up on the inside, but Aramis cuts down, cuts him off. Into the pits we go. And DMS Cherry will go ahead and join. In fact, I imagine nearly the entire prototype field will go ahead and pit on this lap. Lazy Arc does not, though. Lazy Arc says, I'll stay out for a little bit. He's not the only one. Stretch Code is going to stay out, and so will AFC Tarko. So Lazy Arc will be our third different leader of the day. Meanwhile, in the GT category, how many of our leaders there are going to go ahead and pit this time? Silent Drifter is coming into the pits. Fuego is coming into the pits. What about Upton Vic? Are they going to pit this time? They do. What if EVR Burn? No, Burn is going to stay out, and so does Roken. So Burn and Roken both stay out a little bit longer. We also see King of Twilight staying out. Yeah, and it looks like Cole GX is also going to go ahead and choose to stay out after this pit stop as well. So comparing EVR Burn to Roken real quickly, EVR Burn has 40% on his most worn tire right now. Roken's most worn tire is 41.8%. And Roken is burning the fronts more than Burn. Burn is burning the rears more as well. So these drivers both on medium tires, and you have King of Twilight just behind them. King of Twilight's choice, well, he is on softs, and he's just trying to stretch them an extra lap right now, trying to get a positive delta built up for later in the run. Aramis is still ahead of Darkser. So yeah, in the end, pit stops didn't really shake anything up. The gap between them is just as close as it was before. Are we going to have a prolonged fight between this duo from now to the checkered flag? That's going to be the big question. You would think that someone eventually will make a mistake. They'll get caught out guard by traffic or something like that, and that will decide it. Lazy Arc stays out another lap. What if Stretch Code? What if Taco? Stretch Code is going to pit now. So he went about 17 and a half minutes on a set of tires, set of softs, really trying to push for his own positive delta. But Taco and Lazy Arc both staying out longer, working on the medium tires here. So this will drive Stretch Code back to about the 8th position, I imagine. Don't think he'll be caught by Izzy. Izzy seemed to have had some sort of incident that plummeted them way back through the field. They ended up having to fight their way back through GT traffic. It was so bad. Bit of a twitch and slide there by Aramis. He's going to try and keep Darkster behind. He'll defend the inside, so Darkster is going to have to commit to the outside. We saw this move earlier. It didn't work then, but can Darkster make it work now? Darkster goes really deep under braking. No contact between the two of them. Aramis just goes deep enough to deny Darkster the ideal line, slides the rear of the car in front of Darkster, and they both power out of the corner with no issue whatsoever. And DMS Sherry is just nowhere compared to this duo. So now in the night, the Toyotas have really come to life, it seems. King of Twilight making their first stop finally. So now it's just Burn, Roken, and Cole GX who all have yet to make their first stop. Right now, Burn is doing better managing his tires than Roken. And he has track position as well. So we could see a BMW on BMW fight here at the top of the GT category as this goes on. Lazy Arc still out on track. Taco still out on track. Neither of them have chosen to make a stop yet. Everstone and AFMG Vorm having a little bit of a fight between each other here. Oh, Stone gets really close to that outside tire barrier. And here comes Vorm with that superior straight line speed that the Bentley has over the BMW prototype. Does he go for the run? Oh, he sure thought of it. Broke late, but could not make it stick. And the gap actually opens up back in Stone's favor just a bit as they come out of turn number 1 that time. Back to Aramis and Darkser. Aramis has it. Darkser wants it. The inside line is open. Does Darkser lunge up the inside? No. He's a little bit more disciplined than that. Not going to go for anything too crazy here. And Aramis holding station over Darkser. About 20 minutes through, drivers who started on the medium tires will likely be paying at the end of this lap or the next one. So mainly talking about Lazy Arc and Taco. Real quickly looking at their tire wear. Lazy Arc, 56% on the rear tires with about 7% left in the fuel tank. He could go another lap if he wanted to. Then you have AFZ Taco. Taco's a little bit slower, but his most worn tires are only at 55, and he has the fuel to go another lap if he so chooses. Then in the GT, you got Everburn, still leading over Roken. Everburn, his most worn tires, 52% on the rears. Roken just behind him. His most worn tires are 53.7 at the front, but he's actually wearing the fronts and the rears at roughly the same rate, so he's doing a good job balancing the wear nose to tail. And then Cole GX is a little bit farther back in the Porsche. His most worn tires are 53.8 at the nose as well. Lazy Arc has gone ahead and pitted, but AFZ Taco has elected to stay out for another lap because he knows that he can. So this will put Aramis up into second and Darkster in third. The gap between the two of them opens up just a tiny amount this time by. Now Taco's about to catch GT traffic. And then shortly after that happens, Aramis and Darkster will also catch GT traffic for the second time today. The GT field's got very spread out very early on here because of strategy calls. Doesn't seem like Darkster has anything ready for Aramis yet, but now they come up on traffic. Last time they come up to traffic, it was Darkster first, Aramis following. Now the roles are reversed. First driver they pass, LMP Porsche, they catch him in a straight line, so he's not really going to have an impact on this. Everburn pitting, Roken pitting as well. Don't know if Cole GX is going to pit this lap as well also. Down the straight. Coming up on Optin Vic, I believe that is. No, that is King of Twilight. Twilight goes nice and wide, gives the inside line to the leading Porsches here. Cole GX still has not pitted yet, so he continues to lead in GT. Same with AFZ Taco, still has yet to make their stop. Darkster has a run, looks to the inside, neck and neck under braking, and Darkster clears Aramis with no issue whatsoever. So not a great run through turn one, opens up a run down into the second braking zone on the circuit. And Darkster goes back to the front. Aramis still runs right behind him. There's still some traffic to be dealt with though. Aramis touches the dirt just a bit. I don't think it's going to compromise him too much. But they're going to catch the next case of GT traffic in one of these more slower technical sections here. Going to be a lot more difficult to try and deal with them here. Darkster's going to be held up on corner exit a bit, but there's nowhere for Aramis to go. A little bit more GT traffic up ahead. They're going to have to navigate under braking. That's the pink Porsche, the Apex machine. Ends up really holding up Aramis more. And that is AFZ Taco that they've caught. Darkster gets right onto the rear wing of Taco, trying to do some NASCAR-style slam drafting to pull away from Aramis a bit, if at all possible. Oh! And Aramis runs right into the back of Taco. Was there any damage in that incident? Not that I can tell. Looks like they're both going to be able to continue. But I imagine Aramis is not going to be happy about that. And now the gap opens up significantly in Darkster's favor. Also, Cole GX has finally gone ahead and made the stop. So your leader in the bottom category is now turned into Apex Fuego. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break. When we come back, we'll update you on where the field is. We'll be back momentarily here at Sebring. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Sebring. The first quarter of this race has been punctuated by a spirited fight that's been going back and forth between SFM Darkster and LMP Aramis. They've gone through a pit stop, still fighting. They've gone through traffic twice, still fighting. These two are basically in a class of their own today. Now, the good news for Aramis is that he doesn't have to win this stint for his team to win the overall C lobby prototypes. If he can just stay right on Darkster's rear wing from now to the end, he'll still bring home the victory. But the thing is, Darkster opened up a massive can of whoop-ass back in Stint 1, and Aramis will not want to let that happen again. Roken making a pit stop very early on here. You have to wonder if he has got damaged or something from an incident, and we've missed it. But for Roken, who is fighting for overall win in that bottom category, that's really going to hurt him. He has to dig deep now to figure something else out. So now that the lights have gone out, is a duel at dark. A duel at dark. Now that the lights have gone out, SFM versus LMP. You can see DMS Sherry in the far background, those pair of lights in the very far background there. For about 10-15 minutes, it looked like Sherry would be able to keep up with these two, but as this has gone on, these Toyotas continue to get faster and faster as they are fighting with each other. Oh, Darkster into the dirt that time. Is that going to be enough for Aramis to go for a lunge? No, Aramis is going to hold back. He's not going to push for anything too crazy, but Darkster into the dirt again. A little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of a choke. But if Aramis isn't on the wheel, ready to go, ready to push, the moment the driver ahead makes a mistake, well, he's not going to be able to get the position anyway. Darkster a little bit wide here, very wide, very nearly into the dirt. That's really going to compromise him, and Aramis gives Darkster just a tiny shove under braking there, trying to say, hey, pick it up, keep moving. I don't think Aramis wants to actively fight side-by-side with Darkster. I think the two of them just want to hook up and use the draft to just try and pull away from the rest of the field, make sure no one else is dealing with them. And Aramis is getting a little bit stuffy there, being like, hey, pick it up. If you can't do this, let me lead then. Still, they say nose to tail for the moment. Apex Fuego leads over Silent Drifter, then it's Upton Vic, EVR Burn, Keen of Twilight, LMP Porsche, Koljix, and Roken way farther down, who we believe had an accident. Darkster and Aramis making their second stops now. In fact, we're probably going to see everyone who's not Lazy Arc and Taco go ahead and make their second stops at this point. AFMG Vorm was involved in some sort of incident. He's already made his second stop as well now. So does Lazy Arc stay out? It does appear that he will. Track is relatively clear ahead. The next driver Lazy Arc would catch would be Roken, and then after that, it's going to be another long chunk of just clean green racetrack ahead for Lazy Arc, so we can just focus on banging out some nice clean laps right now. Switch Code also stays out one lap longer. He has been doing the same strategy that one of his teammates earlier in this car did. They're just going one extra lap each time. Now, doing this under night might not be a bad thing because they're not going to be burning up their tires as much. They're going to be losing a lot more temperature in their tires when the tires are worn out, but they're not going to be burning up their tires as much. It might be enough to help salvage their runs just a little bit. All right, Apex Fuego pitting out of the lead in GTs. He'll be joined by Silent Drifter. Does Upton Vic jump into the pits with them? Yes, he does. EVR Burn will likely stay out a little bit longer, though, and I imagine Keen of Twilight will consider staying out as well. It's still Darkster over Aramis, but now Aramis looks briefly to the outside of Darkster. side by side through this high-speed bend. Aramis still on the outside, but he's not going to go deep into the quarter. It's not worth throwing away good, valuable, precious lap time. Still just about nose to tail between these two. Cross the start-finish line. Vroom. Are they going to catch Stritch before Stritch pits? I have to wonder if that's going to be the case. As Stritch is pushing his tires as far as he can. He's into the 63% wear range right now, so he might end up holding up Darkster and Aramis a little bit here. You can see them in the same camera shot now from time to time. It's not going to be GT traffic that this duo has to deal with. It will be prototype traffic. It would be the second time as well, because earlier they had caught the prototype of AFC Taco and been held up by him for a prolonged period of time. Now this draft right now will work out in Darkster's favor, I imagine. But it's going to come down to what side of the corner does Stritch give him. He's going to give him the inside. And that's going to, I think that may have decided it, because now that gap really opens up between Darkster and Aramis. I think that's it. Aramis still stuck behind Stritch. He puts the bumper. Stritch still can't get by Stritch, and Stritch goes off all on his own and is still ahead of Aramis. Well, that's race over. At the top, it's taken about a quarter of the run. Not a quarter, about a third of the run. But it is over because Aramis just can't get by Stritch under anything, and Darkster has vanished into the distance now. So the prototype fight has concluded, and still, I just want to see how long it's going to take for Aramis to get by Stritch. It's been half a lap now. Stritch just moves right over for Darkster, and it's not like he's actively holding off Aramis. He's holding the normal line, but Aramis just can't seem to get it clean. And finally, Stritch comes in. Aramis is going to be absolutely furious post-stint, I imagine, over that. But now the gap between Darkster and Aramis is 1,001, 1,002, 1,000. It's about 3.5 seconds. And with no draft, it will be a lot harder for Aramis to close that gap down. So meanwhile, EVR Burn leads in the GT category by a respectable margin over Apex Fuego and Silent Drifter. Roken has gotten by LMP Porsche at the bare minimum and is starting to put pressure on King of Twilight. So Roken trying to dig deep to salvage something out of what seemed to have been an accident we missed earlier. Silent Drifter here, staying just ahead of Cole GX. We'll see drivers who were on medium tires going medium, pitting very shortly here. So primarily looking at Lazy Arc, Everburn, and Cole GX here. But even with that, Cole GX is just about caught Silent Drifter here. Well, I should say, take that back. They won't be pitting yet. They'll be paying another 10 minutes, roughly. If they went medium soft, they'd be pitting around now, though. That's Darkster, who has to get by these guys. But he's not going to be held up too much by them. They come on a nice straight part of the circuit. Aramis is going to be held up by him. He's going to catch them right in the middle of the braking zone of the final corner. And he's massively held up by that Porsche. The 911 Porsche GT2. Silent Drifter still holding on just behind Cole GX. But it's hard for that Dodge to generate the top end that it needs. It's a cornering monster. It's a torque monster, but it just doesn't have that sheer top end that it really wants. So everything's kind of calmed down now at this stage of the event. That's the red and black prototype from DMS Sherry going by them now. And he'll be followed shortly afterward by AFZ Taco, who's on a wild strategy of his own as well. Alright, well, we're going to go ahead and ride on board here with Silent Drifter as we're coming up. I'm going to try and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break, but we're going to go ahead and ride on board with Silent Drifter. Oh, he's got him! He's got to run! There's 3 wide briefly with a prototype, but he's got the inside! Still side by side. The Porsche goes off into the dirt, and the Porsche gets the position back. Alright, we're going to go on board for a lap with Silent Drifter as we take a Twitch-mandated ad break as they continue this fight for what is currently third on track. Cold GX versus Silent Drifter. We'll be back momentarily here at Sebring. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Sebring. Just at the end of that lap, you could see Cold GX going ahead and gain off his medium tires. We're still waiting on EVR Burn and Lazy Arc to go ahead and pit to get off their tires right now. But everyone else, well, outside of those two and Taco, have made at least 2 stops now, 40 minutes into our final stint. So there are roughly 60 minutes, roughly 1 hour left in this final stint here at Sebring. Lazy Arc leads, but our real overall leader is Darkster right now. There was some traffic management that worked out in Darkster's favor, and he has not looked back since. It's not going to be nearly as dominant as a win as what he had earlier, but he's definitely come to grips with this, and he is well on his way to going back-to-back on stint victories today. Well, not back-to-back, but bookending the team's run with stint victories here, as finally Lazy Arc jumps into the pits at about 41 and a half minutes into the event. Not really a lot to talk about right now because most of the battles on track have pretty much dissolved. There is this going on though. It looks like Lazy Ark, after coming out, has ended up right here with EVR Stone. So this was not a battle until after Lazy Ark pitted, so I had missed it earlier. Well, I didn't really get a chance to miss it earlier, but these two are back at it now. Now, Lazy Ark is going to have a tire advantage, but EVR Stone can break so much later into these corners without issue. They're still side by side. They're not typically side by side through this corner, but they are still at it. They're still side by side. They're still side by side. And finally it ends after Lazy Ark gets a better run out of the corner and starts opening the gap just a bit, or trying to open the back now on Everstone. Broken going ahead and making what is now his third stop of the day. Again, Broken, we believe, was involved in an accident that we just missed, and it's kind of derailed his run. While he's one of the faster drivers here by far in the GT category, he basically has to dig himself out of a massive hole. The thing with Sebring is that it's such a long track that unless you have an instant right at the very end of your in-lap, any instant is going to totally derail your stint. Lazy Ark goes wide. Everstone gets to the inside, side by side again between the Porsche, between the BMW and the Toyota. And Everstone keeps it on circuit. They're still neck and neck. They've gone about half of this last lap side by side. And now Lazy Ark clears Everstone on the exit of 2. Bit of a slide there. Everburn finally pits out of the lead in the GT category, so that gives that over to Apex Fuego now. That looked like a bit of a lag spike there. I'm hoping I saw that wrong, but it looked like a weird lag spike. But yeah, it does look like Lazy Ark has solidified his station over EVR Stone now. SFM Darkster and Aramis now both paying together. We'll see DMS Sherry likely join them this lap as well. So the drivers who are going soft, they're all paying now. I imagine drivers who went medium will also go ahead and pit this time if they haven't already. Primarily looking at you, AFC Taco. You see this duo navigate their way around Broken here. And now here comes Everstone into the pit. So AFC Taco is now going to go filter up into the lead of the event. And Lazy Ark, I think, might filter out into the 3rd position here. Ooh, it might be better than that. It might end up being 2nd. Darkster is having troubles getting up to speed coming out of the pits. But yeah, okay, so Darkster now is going to have Lazy Ark ahead of him. He may have to deal with some actual on-track combat here for a next little bit. All right, what can Darkster do to Lazy Ark? Well, he tries to go for the lunge, can't make it stick that time. And mind you, every moment that Darkster is held up here by Lazy Ark, it gives Aramis a chance to try and close the gap down. Coming up on a little bit of traffic, that is the Porsche GT car of Cole GX, but he's not really going to be a factor here. Darkster gets to the inside. Oh, look at that lunge back that Lazy Ark gets back on the outside. Side by side again as they come out of the final corner. It's going to be a drag race across the line. If that was the finish of a normal race, that would have been too close to call. A little bit of contact. Darkster pressed a little bit wide. He has to back out of it. Lazy Ark holds station. You can see Aramis is now starting to close the gap down. But he's going to need these two to keep fighting like this for another 2 or 3 laps in order to try and bring himself back into contention for this stint win here. All right, now onto this straight. Lazy Ark defends the inside. Darkster doesn't really have the room to go to the outside. They've caught a big glut of cars now. Neither of them really having a good time through this, I'd imagine. But now they're catching most of them on a relatively straight part of the track. That is AFC Taco up the road from them. Taco ran an alternate strategy. Oh, and that's Lazy Ark who very nearly went off there. And Darkster's going to get by him, or not yet. He's not by him yet. Lazy Ark goes deep into the following corner, slides wide. Darkster will cross him over on exit. Finally, Darkster is by. Man, that took some time. It might not be over yet if Lazy Ark gets another big lunge here. If Darkster's held up by the traffic they're in the middle of. Again, AFC Taco just a little bit up the road. He's going to be holding these guys up as well if things go badly. And now AFC Taco pits, and he does it right before Darkster catches him. So he will not be a factor for these drivers. There's another car right up the road, that is Silent Drifter going through turn 1 right now. Darkster gets a run. Can he clear him? Oh, Darkster into the dirt. Way into the dirt. He's still in the dirt. He's siding sideways. And Aramis got, well, Lazy Ark got there a little closer, and Aramis has really closed the gap down now off of that. You can see Aramis in the background, although he still has to clear Silent Drifter. But Darkster got a little bit too ambitious, saw the car ahead, thought he could hook it up, and just ended up catching the draft a bit mid-corner, and it sent him into the dirt. Suddenly has to deal with Lazy Ark right behind him, putting pressure on him all over again. Now, the thing for Darkster, though, is that now they're in clean air. There is no one on track between where they are now and almost the start-finish line. It's going to be a long time before they catch traffic again. It's more likely that we'll see Lazy Ark pit before they catch traffic again, honestly. Well, Aramis is about to catch Lazy Ark at this point now, honestly. So now the question is going to be, is Lazy Ark going to be an issue for Aramis to deal with or not? His tires are at 24%, so he's going to be staying out on track for quite a bit longer here. I look at Aramis in comparison, his tires are at 23%, so yeah. If they happen to both be on softs, this could end up being frustrating for Aramis, as he's going to have to overtake Lazy Ark on merit. And that will give Darkster a chance to open the gap and scoot away a little bit more. Still, Toyotas run first, second, third on track at the moment. About 48 minutes left in the stint. Both Lazy Ark and Aramis drop a tire in the dirt that time. But Aramis is right there in Lazy Ark's draft. Do you push the issue? You have to push the issue at some point and make the move. You can't let yourself be dragged down to Lazy Ark's pace. But how aggressively do you push the issue? You don't want to push the issue and end up sliding off track, losing big chunks of time. Fighting like that is why Aramis can now see Darkster again, but Aramis can't afford to be caught up making the same kinds of mistakes. All right, here we go. Aramis trying to wrap it around the outside. He's going to go deep into this corner. Can't completely overtake. He does. Very nicely done by Aramis. He'll clear Lazy Ark quite a bit faster than it took Darkster. So the time between first and second, 1001, 1002. I'd say about 2.5, just a bit under 3 seconds right now. Lazy Ark charges into that corner, but it's going to set him up real badly for exit. So if Aramis can just put a few good laps together, he should be able to break the draft between himself and Lazy Ark and start getting that gap closed back down again. Silent Drifter paying out of the lead in the GT category. So that's going to hand the lead in GT over to Optin Vic, I imagine. In the IARA Dodge, the Dutch Brothers Coffee looking machine. Broken GTR has gotten up to 15th right now, ahead of LMP Porsche and King of Twilight. Maybe he can catch Cole GX on an alternate strategy, but I don't know if Rokin's going to be able to get any higher than about 5th amongst the GT drivers, unless some GT drivers end up in some accidents here going forward. Aramis still hasn't disposed of Lazy Ark. Then you have 4th place, DMS Sherry, who's just kind of running all out by himself. Same with Everstone, who's about, 10 seconds behind Sherry, just kind of running all solo. Then you have Vorm and Taco running pretty close to each other, although they are on alternate pit strategies. Strict Code is all the way back on his own alternate strategy, and AFZ Izzy has been involved in some instance. They are way back in 9th position right now. Then you have Optin Vic, who we're looking at right now, leading in GT, followed by Apex Fuego in the Porsche, and EVR Burn, who I think is likely setting himself up to be the overall stint winner, running the same strategy that Rokin was trying to run, but he's not been able to avoid chaos, and his tire wear is just a little bit better looking than Rokin's. Then a little bit farther back from that is Cole CGX. Cole is on the same strategy, but does not seem to have the pace to make it work. That's why I say maybe he ends up getting caught by Rokin near the very end of this event. I kind of doubt it. After that is Silent Drifter. Drifter started way high up, but it's just kind of drifted, pun intended, backwards just a little bit. Top result seems a little bit out of their range of possibility. Rokin GTR, way back here in 15th, like I said, I believe he was involved in some instance that I missed, which has shunted him way down the order. He's just trying to make up some ground right now. Then you have King of Twilight here, the last of the, one of the 2 Chevrolets, and then LMP Porsche, dead last of the Chevrolets. This was the LMP entry that won 2 stints very early in the event, and he's out of fuel! No, for the second time! For the second time we have seen someone run out of fuel! He's out of gas, and he still has so much of the circuit to cover, but he's out of fuel. He's got fumes to putter forward a bit. He's trying to stay out of the way of the prototypes, but for LMP Porsche, this LMP team, they won the first 2 stints in GT, and then everything's just come completely unglued for them in the time since. I think they'll have just enough momentum to limp it into the pit lane. Optin Vic goes ahead and pits. Cole GX goes ahead and pits now. So the lead goes over to Apex Fuego, just barely over EVR Burn in GT. But again, LMP Porsche gets derailed. Again, the LMP team gets absolutely derailed here. We still have 43 minutes left in the event. We're just a little bit past halfway, mind you. So this is the fight for what is currently the lead in GT. Just as I ride on board with Everburn, he slides wide, duffs a tire into the dirt, and immediately the gap opens up in Fuego's favor here. Has LMP Porsche not been able to make it? No, he is not able to make it. The car has come to a complete stop. Now, he is in this pull-off area, so he's not in the way of anyone else, but he's not exactly able to move either. Not sure what the strategy is for LMP Porsche. Typically, if you've had this kind of failure this early on and there's no way for you to get back to the pits, it's usually better for you to withdraw, because you can still withdraw and get, I believe it's like 85 to 90% of your overall distance from your next best stint. So yeah, LMP Porsche has now left the group. We'll try to reach out to LMP Porsche, see if he wants to go ahead and say anything about what's taking them out there, about how they ended up butchering the fuel mileage so badly. Meanwhile, we look back in this kind of stalking battle for 10th and 11th. Fuego has it, Burn wants it. We look at their tires real quickly just for some comparison. Fuego is at 30.3%, wearing out the rear tires this time. EVR Burn just behind is at 34.7%, well 35.2% burning out the rears as well. So both of these drivers burning up the rear tires more than the front. So that's something we weren't really seeing from the GT cars in the daytime, but now at night that seems to be a bit more of an issue here. Fuego a little bit wide, and he's into the dirt! He's into the grass! He's still into the grass! Here comes Burn to the outside! Neck and neck, a little bit of self-inflicted mistake while traffic went by. Higher category traffic went by, and now they're side by side for a lead in GT. Neck and neck, and that 23, blue and white BMW shoots to the lead. One German manufacturer overcomes the other for the moment. A little bit of a hop, skip, and jump over the curbs back there. But for the moment, EVR Burn has the lead. Now, he's burnt up his tires more than Fuego, but he has the lead for the moment now. As FM Darkster and LMP Aramis are pitting, I imagine Lazy Arc will join them in the pit lane this time. No, Arc wants to stay out for another lap. He's trying to push a tire advantage going forward, I guess. That Porsche slides wide, went deep, got the lead back, but then slid wide, and here comes EVR Burn back. Still neck and neck. If that was the finish there, that would have been too close to call as well. Down into turn number 1 again. Apex Fuego scoots ahead of EVR Burn, but Burn gets them on the crossover. Side by side again as they go into the second braking zone. Big door-to-door contact, and now Burn comes out on top as they continue to seesaw back and forth for this top position here in GT. No big lunge from the Porsche that time. Here we go. He's got a run, though, coming up the inside of EVR Burn. Neck and neck, side by side. I don't see any damage to Burn's engine, but he seemed to be a lot slower getting up to speed that time out of the corner, and that's let Apex Fuego get back to the top. That's Darkser, your leader in Prototype. Caught them at a not ideal time, but the question is going to be, of course, when does Aramis catch this duo? Because if Aramis catches them at the end of this back straightaway, it's not really going to matter. No, it looks like Aramis will get by them in the straight here. So again, another little thing that shrinks the gap a tiny amount between Darkser and Aramis. But our focus is still on this battle here. What is Lazy Ark doing? Is he on medium tires and I missed it? No, he's just pushing these tires really, really far, apparently. Or if he is on medium tires, I'm really stupid and I've completely missed it. Side by side between these two again for the GT lead as they come out turn number 1. Byrne has the inside, though. He muscled his way back through here last time. Can he do it again? Oh, he's trying. But this time it's neither of them who beats the other going to the following corner. They're side by side in the next corner, but the Porsche has the nice straighter line, but gets into the dirt in the process, and the BMW is going to come back on the outside again. They've been side by side for just about a third of a lap already. Still side by side. Someone's going to have to back out here in this corner. And it's going to be Byrne. But they went about a third of a lap that time, side by side, before they finally settled it. Byrne looks back to the inside, can't get alongside Fuego, though. Oh, is that Taco? I think that was Taco who just went off circuit there behind them. Completely self-inflicted mistake, went way too deep into the corner. Well, hemorrhaged a huge chunk of time in the process. Lazy Ark finally going ahead and making their stop. Right on board with EVR Byrne as he looks at Apex Fuego ahead. But now that Lazy Ark is pitted, we'll see Darkster and Aramis go back to being first and second on track in the prototypes. Again, Aramis doesn't need to win the stint. Wayne, it would help, but he doesn't need to win the stint. If he can just be right behind Darkster at the finish and not have too many penalties built up, they'll be fine. It seems to me like maybe that Porsche has a little bit more straight line speed than I've been giving it credit for. Did we just have a disconnect? Oh, please tell me you didn't just have a disconnect. We did. Oh, and it's Sherry! And that was a team that had an outside chance at winning, but now it's gone. We're going to try and reach out to DMS Sherry, see what's happened, but frustration. And EVR Byrne closing back in on Apex Fuego again. About 35 minutes left in the stint. Well, that makes Lazy Ark, that puts Lazy Ark in a position where a podium position is still very possible for him, even on a very suboptimal strategy. You see prototypes now making their way through this GT lead category, this fight at the lead of the GTs. All right, and coming into the party right now is DMS Sherry. Sherry, are you able to hear me? Can you include your audio in the Xbox party?
There you go.
All right, Sherry, it looked like you had a potential podium run coming your way, and all of it's come unglued. What took you out?
My game crashed. I came out of the Sunset Bend and made the pass on the GT car, and game just crashed.
Well, more than a little bit frustrating to say the least, considering this is the final stint, and at least from what it looked like, it seemed like you had an outside chance at still stealing the win out of all the prototype categories in the C lobby. Frustrating to say the least. But I do want to ask, who do you think has a chance of winning of all the teams in the C lobby amongst the prototypes right now? Do you think Darkster's team has it? Do you think it's going to be the LMP team that Aramis is on? Or do you think it might be someone else?
I mean, from what I saw, Darkster was pretty fast. I think they have a pretty good chance at winning.
Right.
EVR's prototype car was also doing pretty good with Blue Streak behind the wheel. Stone wasn't doing, or EVR Stone wasn't doing too bad, so.
All right, one last question, and I ask this every time we're in the final stint. What else can we see you in over the next few weeks or months in the Forza community?
I don't know. I'm going to be racing in EVR, their DTM series. It's already started. IEC's Cup Series starting sometime this month. So.
All right, well, we'll be keeping an eye on you then. It'll be nice to see you in other stuff, hopefully to kind of wash out the bad taste here. But thanks for jumping in and talking with us. It's just a shame we had to talk to you so early today.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good one.
Yep. All right, and with that in mind, we're also going to go ahead and take this as a chance to go ahead and take a break, as we've seen that fight in the GT lead finally break up, as well as one of them have gone ahead and pitted. So we're going to go ahead and just take a Twitch-mandated ad break. We'll be back in about a minute and a half or so here at Sebring. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Sebring. We have about 30 minutes left here in the event. It is SFM Darkster leading over Aramis. Darkster trying to win the stint. Aramis trying to stay close enough to Darkster to ensure that his team can win the overall prototype, I guess you call say it the prototype race across the entire event from all the C Lobby teams. A little bit farther back in third place is Lazy Ark. They're trying to make it a 1-2-3 Toyota result today. Fourth place is AFC Taco, highest of all of the Bentleys right now. Although Taco's had a few self-inflicted mistakes and it's just kept them from being anywhere close to the top three. Fifth place is the highest of the BMWs that are still running EVR Stone right now. Not really having a great time of it. They started relatively higher up the grid, but it just kind of gradually fell down the order. AFMG Zorm is coming back into the pits already with about 30 minutes left, or I should say coming out of the pits with about 30 minutes left. So if he pits now, threw on some soft tires, and then pits again in another 15 laps for another set of soft tires, this will have been his second to last stop. He should only have one more stop to go to the end. Eighth place, last of the prototypes that are still with us on track is AFZ Izzy. Just not been a good time for this prototype throughout most of the time. In the GT category, your leader right now is Silent Drifter in the Dodge here. But they are going to have to pit probably another 3 laps or so. Boy, very nearly took Darkster out there. I don't think Darkster realized he was going to be coming to the outside until it was almost too late that time by. Second place is EVR Burn. Burn and Fuego have been in a fight back and forth for what will likely end up being second position. Might end up being the lead, but I think it's going to be for second position. We typically have been seeing that one of them paint a little bit earlier than the other. So they both do spend a few laps in clean air, but it seems like even when they're in clean air, it's not enough for them to put great lap times down to get away from the other. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Optin Vic running back here in the 4th position in GT right now in that IARA Dutch Brothers Coffee machine. It's not actually sponsored by Dutch Brothers Coffee, but boy, does it look like it. 5th is Roken GTR. Roken had pace for outright winning, but has been involved in some sort of incident. He's just trying to dig himself out of a hole right now. Behind him is King of Twilight back here in the 14th spot right now. Not been a great time for him. Not been a great time for any of the Chevys. His is the only Chevy still running. And 15th is Cole CGX in the Porsche. Another interest has not been having a bloody good time today. And that's kind of a rundown through everything with roughly 27 and a half minutes left in the stint right now, in the final stint. So again, it is Darkster and Aramis. Those are the two drivers at the head of the field right now. Darkster trying to win the stint. Aramis trying to win the overall event for the prototypes amongst the C Lobby entered teams right now. I want to try and time the gap between Darkster and Aramis for you. One, 1,000. It's 2 seconds, if not a little less, between the two of them. The gap had opened up big time when they dealt with some prototype traffic earlier. But now, as it's been going on, Darkster has been getting not massively screwed, but just a little bit screwed with navigating GT traffic, and it is bringing Aramis closer and closer bit by bit. Oh, and Darkster going in the dirt like that is not exactly going to help him. So there is an outside chance that these two could be going back at it here at the front. Sadly, I did not catch what happened to Rokin earlier. No, it just kind of caught me off guard. And again, Darkster goes off. But no, I did not see what happened to Rokin earlier that has put him in the position he is currently in, sadly. There is this potential battle that could happen between Stretch Code and AFMG Vorm right now. That is a BMW leading a Bentley here for 6th position on track. Outside of that, there's also the fight that has been going back and forth for a while between EVR Burn and Apex Fuego. Burn has the position again. Fuego wants it back. With about 45 minutes left, if you decide to pit now, you could throw on some medium tires. That would take you down to about 22 minutes left. Yeah, pitting now wouldn't be the greatest thing, but if you're willing to wait another, because we're at 25 minutes to go, if you're willing to wait another 2 to 3 minutes, basically another lap or two, you could pit, throw on the medium tires, and not worry about stopping again for the rest of the run. SFM Darkster coming into the pits, and so is LMP Aramis. Those two have been marrying each other's pit strategy. They know that if it's going to be a fight between them, they want to do it mano-y-mano on the track, and they are so clear of Lazy Arc, I think it will be very easy for them to make that happen. So I'm a little bit curious if Darkster and Aramis, are either going to try and put on the mediums, or are they going to go soft to the end? Lazy Arc has built up a bit of a positive tire delta, so once this lap is over, well, if he's on the mediums now, he could go for quite a bit longer, and then maybe throw on some softs later, not worry about tire fall off. The thing is, though, I don't think that Lazy Arc has the outright pace to do anything to Darkster or Aramis. Looking back at this fight for what is 6th here, Stretch Code comes up on Rokin now. I did not get to watch the last stint, no. I took the break to actually, eat and upload the last stints to YouTube. Well, pre-upload them, I should say. I'm not technically allowed to upload them until the day after, but I guess you could call it pre-uploading. Because they're not public, no one else can see them. But yeah, I wanted to get that done early if I could. So those are in the process of uploading, but they won't go public until Monday or Tuesday. Anyways, Stretch Code still holding station over Vorm. BMW on Bentley action. Bentley closes in the apex is bit. He's going so deep in, trying to do anything to try and pressure that BMW into a bit of a mistake here. Rokin making his stop, 5th stop of the day now. And with 43 minutes left, Rokin can probably throw on. It will be a little hurting him a little bit, but he can probably throw on the medium tires, not pit again for the rest of the run, and that might be enough to get Rokin ahead of Cold GX and maybe even King of Twilight. Again, you pit now with about 23 minutes left. You could throw on the medium tires, and while they'd be hurting, you could take them to the end of the run here. Well, that was Fuego and Burn that this duo have just gotten by. Silent Drifter is paying out of the lead now. So Drifter, again, if he's throwing on the medium tires, he will not have to pit again for the rest of the run with about 21 minutes left in the event. Excuse me. Optin Vic also went ahead and pit this time as well. But for Fuego and Burn, how much longer can this duo stay out on track? Well, they got about 12% left in the fuel tank here. For Fuego, I look at EVR Burn. He's got 18% left in the tank, but he's got 44% tire wear. I look at Fuego, his tire wear is at 36. So Burn is tire limited and Fuego is fuel limited. I mean, yeah. So that could get interesting because they may both have to pit at the same time, but for different reasons. And the extra fuel being put in may end up taking a little bit more time and might have a knock-on effect on deciding who ends up in this position between the two of them. But are they going to go deep enough that they can throw on the soft tires? If they can get to about 15 minutes left in the stint, they can throw on soft tires and be good to the end. If they're not able to make it to about 15, 16 minutes in, they are going to be hurting, though. Burn had a bit of a bad run that time, though, and the gap's opened up now. Lazy Ark is back in the lead with about 20 minutes or so to go. Again, I think that Lazy Ark is in a position when he pits, he might, if he can stretch these tires out long enough, he might be able to throw on some soft tires and try to run down on Darkster and Aramis to the very end, because he's only got one stop left. Darkster and Aramis both should have one stop left as well. But Darkster and Aramis have a track position disadvantage to Lazy Ark right now. And if Aramis catches Darkster, not saying that will happen, because it's really hard to guess, but if that happens, and Darkster into the dirt there! Somehow he keeps it on circuit, but you saw him going to the dirt to avoid that BMW. Aramis is going to have a little bit easier time clearing Rokin's BMW there. AFZ Izzy paying out last place in the Protos. King of Twilight's also gone ahead. They've made their they're making what should be their final stop. Well, if they're putting on means, it'll be their final stop. If they're putting on softs, they'll still have to stop one more time here. With about 19 minutes and 15 seconds left, we're going to stay on track to the checkered flag here. So, yeah, we're not going to take another ad break until after the event is over right now. We're going to stick with this until the end. That is the leader about to actually put Izzy a lap down. So Izzy at risk of going a lap down here near the final few laps. For the final 18 minutes. But again, if Izzy has just made their stop, they've probably put on some soft tires and they can open up the pace a little bit to run away from Lazy Ark. Again, I look at Lazy Ark. We're at 18 and a half minutes left. His tires are at 48%. I think he's going to be able to push it out to about 15 minutes to go, throw on some softs, and be good to the end. The question is going to be, of course, Darkster versus Aramis. Is there still navigating traffic? Is the gap that Darkster has over Aramis, is it going to be enough for Darkster trying to overtake Aramis in overall distance? I don't think it will be. But again, all the calculation that was done up to Stint 6 only calculates the first four stints. So Stint 5 is still kind of a wild card. We don't really know how Stint 5 played out back then. You know, some drivers like C480 said, hey, I didn't have a great time, felt like I was caught in traffic for a long period of time, didn't have a great distance, even though I got a third place result overall. But still, we don't really know what the final distance tally is right now. And I don't have access to that sheet, and I'm not going to ask for it right now when we're in the closing minutes of this race. Less than 18 minutes left. EVR Bird now pits out of the 10th spot, so Apex Fuego now inherits the lead in that pink Porsche, but he's only got 3.5% left in the fuel tank, so he'll have to pit at the end of this lap. So Burn is not really in a position to throw on the soft tires. Fuego, he won't be able to put on the soft tires, but he could, to like make it easy, but he could put on the soft tires and try to limp it home maybe to a second place result. Silent Drifter has ended up just ahead of EVR Burn. Now Silent Drifter, I believe, is on medium tires, already have some wear on it, and it's going to be slower. So if EVR Burn is on softs, then Burn should catch Silent Drifter. And if EVR Burn put on mediums, well, he might catch Drifter near the very end of the lap, but when Drifter's tires are burning up. So we may have still a two-way, if not even a three-way fight to the end. The wild card, of course, is going to be Fuego. Fuego is going to have to pit at the end of this lap just due to fuel issues, but we're at 16 and a half minutes left. If he pits with 16 minutes to go, he'll come out of the pits with about 15 and a half minutes left. He could throw on the soft tires and still pull out a second stint victory here. That was Lazy Arc, I believe, who just navigated his way around there. Again, Lazy Arc's kind of off on his own strategy right now, trying to make something else unique happen, as he now has cleared AFZ Izzy. And is Lazy Arc gonna pit this time? Oh, he probably should. His fuel's not very high, so if he pits now, he could probably throw on the soft tires and be good to the end. He's not pitting this time, though. He's going to stay out a little bit longer. He doesn't want to deal with any tire fall off. This is SFM Darkster with Aramis. He's a little bit farther back. Apex Fuego now pits with 15 and a half minutes left, so he'll come out with about 15 minutes left. Soft tires for Fuego to the end, I imagine. He's betting on them not falling off too much, and he's also betting, I think, that Silent Drifter and EVR Burn are either going to burn off the tires they're on, or they're on harder tires that won't be competitive. So this fight for the GT win between Drifter, Burn, and Fuego could get really interesting here. And the big thing is, if they fight enough, Roken, even though he is way far back, Roken might not be in a screwed over position if these three spend enough time fighting and holding each other up. And look at that, Fuego has ended up ahead of them. Fuego is ahead of both Burn and Silent Drifter. Not by a massive margin, but he is ahead of both of them. As long as these two stay there, Fuego can try and open the gap up just a little bit more in GT. Ooh, wheel-to-wheel contact there. Vorm and Stretch Code making their final stops now. Are we going to see Lazy Arc pull off a win over Darkster? Darkster has yet to make his final stop, but he's not really closing on Lazy Arc. We might see Lazy Arc pull out of this stint victory here at the end. I kind of was denying it was likely to happen because it didn't look like Lazy Arc had that pace, but if these three drivers, Lazy Arc, Darkster, and Aramis, all have one more stop to the end, Lazy Arc's got the advantage on track. And it's a pretty sizable advantage as well. All right, Lazy Arc's into the pits now. 14 minutes left. Does Darkster pit this time? No, he does not. He's going to stay out. What about Aramis? Aramis also chooses to stay out. Meanwhile, it is Apex Fuego who leads. Trying to stay ahead of EVR Burn and Silent Drifter. Burn has pulled away from Silent Drifter. Now, the question, of course, is what is Burn's tire life going to look like? He pitted well before the 15-minute mark. If he threw on the soft tires, those tires are going to fall off a cliff. But if he put on the medium tires, he's not really going to get the full use of them. Silent Drifter is at 22.6% on his most worn tire. EVR Burn is at 15.9, 16% on his most worn tire. We might see Fuego scoot off into the distance, and Burn might get caught by Silent Drifter again before this is over. AFC Taco now comes into the pits. He's making his final stop now. 13 minutes left here. So Everstone will now overtake Taco for fourth. Aramis has almost caught Darkster again. He's not close enough to get draft, but he is getting close enough. And if Darkster and Aramis start fighting again, well, that's going to give this to Lazy Arc, I imagine. Right now, Darkster and Aramis have to hit their best laps possible to try and close down on Lazy Arc, and then do that again after their pit stops, and hope that Lazy Arc burns his tires up. Otherwise, we're going to see Lazy Arc pull off this stint win here. Does this duo of Toyotas, Darkster and Aramis, do they pit this time by? They can put a little bit less fuel in the tank if they're pitting this time. Aramis is pitting, but Darkster is not. Darkster wants to stay out a little bit longer, but Aramis does not want to push his tires any farther. Darkster says, I'll push the tires farther. I want a shorter fuel load, a smaller fuel load to put in the car. So he's going to be at almost 60% wear when he finally comes into the pits. He's not going to be putting a lot of fuel in the car, though. So he's betting on a short time in pit lane, working in his favor. Where is Lazy Arc going to be in relation to Aramis? Well, here's your answer. Aramis still not out of pit lane. And there we are. Lazy Arc is well clear of him. That's not even close. So Aramis will not win this stint unless Lazy Arc has an accident and Darkster has an accident. Aramis is not winning this stint. Podium definitely in the cards. Victory not happening. Real quickly, I want to look down at EVR Burn once again. His tires are at 23.4% on the most worn right now. We'll look at Silent Drifter just a little bit behind. His most worn tires are 29%. So yeah, I think EVR Burn put on the soft tires. I think EVR Burn might end up hemorrhaging a bunch of positions near the very end here from pushing his tires too far. This tire strategy is a bold strategy. He's trying to open up a big gap on Silent Drifter before the tires fall away, but I don't think it's going to work. And the bigger thing is, I don't think that Burn has anything for Apex Fuego, who's on fresher, younger, softer tires. I think Fuego has the stint win in GT. The fight for second, though, between Burn and Drifter could get interesting. And if it goes really bad, we could see Optin Vic maybe even steal a position from EVR Burn. Darkster finally making a stop. So we now turn our focus to Lazy Arc. And yeah, I agree, C480. I also wish that Forza would tell us what tires they were using. We turn our focus to Lazy Arc. Is Lazy Arc going to be able to end up ahead of Darkster? And when he is ahead of Darkster, will he be able to stay ahead of Darkster? Darkster already rolling down the pit road straightaway. He's already completed his stop. Now it's just a long run down pit road to the exit. Lazy Arc comes across the start-finish line here. He gets right up against the wall, trying to make the sound of the engine reverberate off the wall and get into Darkster's head. He is clear of Darkster. He is well clear of Darkster. It's not even close. What if Aramis versus Darkster? Aramis is going to come down. Can he overtake Darkster? Darkster's already out of pit lane, but Aramis has a huge head of steam. He's already got his tires up to temperature right now. He's closer to Darkster, but not close enough to take the fight to him. But Lazy Arc pulling off a win could definitely upend things and really be what steals the overall victory from Aramis. Aramis has been focused on Darkster for so long, it looks like it's going to be Lazy Arc who's going to be the driver to really focus on. 9 minutes left, and look at how massive that gap is that he has on Darkster and Aramis. He's only at 19% tire wear. He's not going to deal with any major tire fall off here. Looking back at EVR Burn, he is now actually starting to close down on the Porsche of Apex Fuego now. But again, look at the tire wear, 35% on this BMW. Look at Fuego, who is leading, who pitted a lap later. His tires are only at 27%. So even if he catches him, he's not going to be able to do anything to him because the tire advantage is going to be firmly in the pink Porsche's favor. But I think EVR Burn just wants to get close enough to Fuego to get a draft off of him and then use that to try and stay ahead of Silent Drifter here, who is on a set of medium tires. He's only at 37.7% on his most worn tire. We look at EVR Burn right now. His most worn tire is 37.3%. So the tire crossover has happened. Silent Drifter has now got better tires, better medium tires than EVR Burn softs. But as Burn opened up enough of a gap to keep Silent Drifter from catching him in 7.5 minutes. Looking real quickly at the fight for second once again. Darkster continues to be held up by traffic. And Aramis still is catching traffic just a little bit better than Darkster right now. But he's still not close enough to get a draft on Darkster, let alone fight with him. And again, if Lazy Ark's going to win by this massive margin, it may not matter. It may be the team that Lazy Ark is on, the AFZ team, that ends up stealing the overall win out of all the C lobby prototypes here. Aramis is so close to getting a draft off of Darkster. You can see it. You can almost smell it. Well, you asked nicely. There is technically a way to do lap times, I believe. But not in timed races. I believe you can usually pull up the cards, and I think they would normally have like something for like another driver data thing that would tell what your lap times are. But because these races are timed and not lap based, they don't record what the times are. So yeah, if it was other stuff, you could do it, but not in this series, sadly. Oh, and that's Darkster off! Darkster had a moment going off there, and suddenly Aramis has caught him. The fight for second is on in prototypes. Aramis has caught Darkster, and it's all over again. This duo, Lazy Ark at the front, is going to be happy with this because now he can just maintain the gap, and Lazy Ark is going to get redemption for the stint win that he stole from himself earlier by spinning off with another car. As long as Lazy Ark doesn't make a mistake, these two fighting with each other will keep them from doing anything to him here at the end. Just a bit over 5 minutes left. Can Aramis do anything to Darkster here on the streak to the end? Just about nose to tail. All right, this is it. Aramis is going to have the draft off of Darkster. Does he go for a move? He's immediately committing early to a move. He wants to go to the inside and try and overtake Darkster as quickly as possible. Reminder, Aramis pitted a lap earlier than Darkster. Oh, they made contact! Big door-to-door contact, and Darkster is shunted off the ideal racing line. Aramis goes wide on exit, though. Darkster is already coming back. Darkster has the draft. Now he's going to go back to the outside. They're coming up on some traffic. They'll split the traffic on both sides. Still side by side, going down in turn number 1 with just 4 minutes and 15 seconds left. Darkster is going to get the position back, wrapping it around the outside of Aramis, though. And Burn is starting to lose ground on Fuego again. The tires have gone away for EVR Burn. Is he going to be able to stay ahead of Silent Drifter? Rokin's forward progress is pretty much stalled out in 5th. He's not going to be able to do any higher than that. And we don't know if that will be enough for Rokin's team to pull home the win for the GTs in C Lobby. And we don't know this here either for Aramis. Is he going to be able to do enough here to still secure a win for the prototypes in the C Lobby? Aramis drops the tire in the dirt now. That might have settled it. 3 minutes and 10 seconds left. It's going to be clean track ahead for this duo. They're not going to catch any more traffic from now to the end here. So unless Darkster makes a mistake, Aramis basically needs to put together the greatest laps that he can this month to try and make something happen here. Burn is starting to lose touch with Apex Fuego. We take a look at Burn real quickly. These guys will have Fuego, Burn, Silent Drifter. Once they get to the start-finish line, they're going to have about one more full flying lap. And that'll be a look at this. 57% left on the tires for Burn. I look at Silent Drifter, who's on mediums, but well far back. He is at only 52.2%. So it's not like Silent Drifter is absolutely tearing up the track and harassing Burn. This strap might just barely work out for EVR Burn to secure second here. Aramis still right there behind Darkster. They'll have this entire lap and a good chunk of one more after this. But this will be their last full lap around here. They are actually both closing down on Lazy Ark as this is going on. So the gap between them and the leader is shrinking. Not enough to let them get a shot at winning, but it is shrinking a bit, and that does put LMP Aramis's hopes in slightly better conditions. Pretty much every other spot on track is pretty much wrapped up. The fight's going to be for second in prototypes and second in GTs. It's almost a mirror image, almost a bookend of what the end of the stints was at Stint 1. Oh, Darkster's wide! Darkster made a mistake! And Aramis goes through! Self-inflicted mistake by Darkster with 90 seconds left, and Aramis gets up to second now! And immediately he opens up about 2.5 car length gap on Darkster. He needs to minimize mistakes. He can't afford to let that happen again. Darkster is still close enough to get a run back on him going into the final corner, though. Oh, both of them dropped tires in the dirt, but Darkster was a little bit better. He's got a better run going down the back straightaway. Is he going to commit to the inside? He is! Darkster coming to the inside of Aramis. Side by side for the two of them for the final time into the final corner. Darkster gets it, but Aramis calls up behind. He hits the inside wall. Aramis hits the inside wall. Darkster's got to fire out of the final corner and open the gap back up. 45 seconds left between these two. Burn is still well clear of Silent Drifter, but I'm still keeping an eye on that fight as well. But this is the main fight to watch right now. Second in prototypes. Darkster has got it back ahead of Aramis now. They've really closed the gap down between themselves and Lazy Ark. I look real quickly at Lazy Ark. Is his tires burnt up? Oh yeah, he's pushed his tires past the limit, but it's not going to matter with less than 30 seconds left. Darkster over Aramis, coming down what will likely be their last long straightaway. Are we going to try and see a big dive bomb by Aramis here with 15 seconds left? No, he's not going to commit to a big dive bomb. Not this time, not here. And frankly, he's probably not going to be able to do one at all. I check back on EVR Burn. He's still clear of Silent Drifter. 2 seconds. 1 second. Time's up. Over. Plow. And your winner and prototype is going to be this man here. Lazy Ark finally gets a victory, redemption from earlier. SFM Darkster will come home in second. LMP Aramis will come home in third. In the bottom category, it will be Apex Fuego with his second stint win, followed by EVR Burn, and then Silent Drifter. We're going to take a Twitch mandated ad break. We will be back momentarily to do some post-stint interviews with some of our top finishers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Sebring. TORA's 12 hours of Sebring in the C lobby has concluded. It is Lazy Ark who's won in the final stint. Fantastic job on him making the 4-stop strategy work over Darkster and Aramis. We're going to try and get some interviews in with some of our top finishers in both categories here. Don't know if anyone's actually going to be able or willing to jump in. For a lot of these drivers, they've been doing this for a long time, and they're definitely feeling cooked. Aramis, do you want to jump in for a post-stint interview? Okay, they're still taking distances right now, so we're just going to be in a longer holding period than I realized. I apologize for that. Oh, sweet. Edelweiss dropped a new album, apparently. All right, well, that was interesting to see. All right, and now we're seeing a bunch of drivers leaving, so I'm guessing that they've gotten some stuff at least. Some of the stuff at least, so... All right, coming into the party right now is LMP Aramis. Aramis, go ahead, include your audio. Podium result, but it could have been so much more. What do you have to say about your run out there, Aramis? All right, Aramis, you had a bunch. You did the stint at daytime. You did a stint at nighttime. Did you notice any distinct difference with how the car handled from the day to the night? All right, one last question, Aramis. I ask this at the end of every TORA Enduro. What other events in Forza can we anticipate seeing you in over the next few weeks or months? right, well, we'll definitely be looking forward to you at Le Mans. I think that's supposed to be in June this year, so we'll keep an eye on that, even though it's about an entire season away. Aramis, I want to say thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. It's been fantastic watching you all day long. And I said this to one of your teammates earlier. In my personal opinion, your team wins the award for best livery of the event by far. All right, that's the word from LMP Aramis. And now I want to go ahead and talk with Lazy Ark. Lazy Ark, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you able to include your audio in the Xbox party?
Yes.
All right. Sweet. Well, Lazy Ark, this seems to be redemption for what happened earlier in one of the earlier stints. You finally pull off a win, and you do it by making 2 fewer stops than drivers who seem to be faster than you. How in the world did you know that strategy was going to play out?
Because I knew that I was faster than everyone else. Was supposed to be on lobby B or A, but at the quali, a tire at the last turn, it ended up crashing with me.
Oh, you tell me that, and that's just pain. I can just imagine that. That's painful. Oh, no wonder. Well,
yeah.
Still, fantastic time out there. A fantastic stint win. I do want to ask, I ask this about everyone. Well, I actually want to know, did you notice a pace difference from this to when you were running the daytime? Between the night and the day, what was the pace difference like?
Like 30 minutes till the end, it was like a second slower, from the daytime. A bit slippery, but manageable.
That is, well, you didn't just manage it, you absolutely commanded it. I'm honestly impressed. You're telling me a second off and slippery. I'm just kind of like, the thought of that makes me cringe inside it. You had no problem whatsoever. All right, one last question. What other Forza events are we likely to see you in over the next few weeks or months?
Force Enduros, of course. And right now I'm making a championship with the Elemental. Right now.
Ooh, you want to share anything else, or is it just kind of a wait and see kind of thing?
Wait and see.
All right, well, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Hopefully there'll be some sort of promotion for it in the TORA server or something like that so we can see it going forward. But, mate, congratulations on the stint win. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us as well.
And thank you to you to always make excellent job at casting everything.
Well, I can only have an excellent job casting if the people on track put on a good show.
From Kyalami, I always wanted to... I always expect to see you at casting.
Well, I'm glad I can satisfy, and I'm glad I was able to interview you as well, mate. Have a good time, mate. Peace out.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we're going to try and send one more invite out to EVR Burn and Apex Fuego for post-it interviews, but if they don't jump in shortly here, we're going to wind down the broadcast here anyway. But right now, Fuego is being pushed around the circuit by one of the prototypes. I believe that's EVR Stone pushing him around. Not really sure what's going on there. But with that in mind, we have heard from our first and third place finishers there in prototype as well. Okay, well, Fuego's going to be taking the Dreams line, it looks like. Yako mania, sombrero mania, sombrero materasi. Pumbalea, pumbalea, mesquita camasia, mesquita calis mina messenger to me. Pumbalea, pumbalea. Oh, well, that's a problem. And that totaled the car as well, just to add insult to injury. Okay, but it doesn't look like we're going to get any more interviews going here. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the broadcast. I have been your host for Insanely 13. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the broadcast today for all 5 stints we covered. And if you end up watching any of the other stints, I do want to say thank you to those people. I believe Kelchan did streaming, Darkster did streaming, There were at least 2 other people who did stream, but man, I was so confused with what the streaming setup was going to be coming into the event. I was a little bit confused, so I don't remember everyone. But thanks to the rest of the TORA broadcasting staff for having me on, letting me join them, and we will all see you at a later time. Until next time, thank you everyone very much for joining us. Farewell and goodbye.